Right. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to News and Views on Salam Media. My name is Aisha Dadi Patel. I'll be with you from 8 to 10 this morning as we unpack some stories shaping South Africa, the continent, and the world this Wednesday, 11 March, during the Ramadan 2026 edition of the show. We're going to dive straight in with our first guest. This morning, we begin with the escalating tensions in the Middle East as the war involving Iran continues to reverberate far beyond the region. We'll be asking our first guest what the strategic endgame really is and why the conflict appears to be intensifying now. We're joined this morning by Professor Jeff Halper of the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, to help us unpack Israel's calculations, the wider geopolitical stakes, and what may come next in a conflict that risks pulling in global powers. Prof. Halper, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Can you outline for our listeners a little bit of context? What is the latest this morning? We've been hearing Trump, the President of the United States, denying responsibility for the bombing of the girls' school in Iran. We are seeing airspaces closed across the Middle East. Can you just walk us back a little and talk to us around what is the latest situation?
Well, it's very, I'm not sure.
Prof, are you with us?
Oh.
Our technical team is just getting Prof back on the line with us. We're going to have a quick ad break, and when we come back, hopefully we'll have these technical bugs sorted out.
For the first time, I can dream again.
The Africa Muslims Agency Orphan Hope Program provides the food, clothing, and basic support needed by thousands of children across the world. Every child deserves a chance at a hopeful future.
For 50,000 rands, you can transform our lives with the AMA Orphan Hope Program.
Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
With Ashraful Aid this Ramadan, your zakat changes lives. It feeds families facing hunger, restores dignity to those in need, and brings hope where it is needed most. From food relief to essential support, your zakah reaches communities with care, transparency, and impact. Give with confidence, give with trust. Make your zakah count this Ramadan. Give your zakah to Ashraful Aid and help change lives today.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
It is an honor, no doubt about that. And when they approached me, I saw it as such an honor. And their approach was, we want to rename this street in your name because we want to recognize the contribution that you have made to the struggle. But they also said that I was going to be the first of several people because they had plans. One does not say no to such a thing. But, when this clip came out and where I saw where Mr. Kanani stands and where Mr. McKinsey stands and where their party stands on this particular issue, I had to ask myself, is securing in this way my legacy or being honored in this way, is it really worth it? The lives of Palestinian children, the dignity of the Palestinian people, that I will sacrifice because I want a bit of glory for myself.
Dr. Alan Gusakin.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity. Tune into Salam Media via audio stream.
It was definitely an experience that surpassed all expectations. It has been the most magical and special that I've experienced with my family. Alhamdulillah.
The best part of the trip was when we got to see where Maryam alayhi salam stayed, and I also enjoyed praying in Masjid al-Aqsa.
Walking within the streets of the old city of Jerusalem and the Aqsa compound in itself, it's very visible how the Blessed Land is under occupation. To witness the legacy of prophets and his companions and scholars as well, in such a connecting way that it will always be embedded in our hearts.
I was very scared of the guards. I never know. The first question I asked my mom before we left, is it safe there? Is there still war? Being at Masjid al-Aqsa, picturing all the Anbiya alayhi salam performing salah behind our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was amazing feeling.
Sister Tasneem Tajba with her beautiful children.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity. Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media.
Absolutely, it's quite evident, and it seems like it's been all of a sudden over the last 2 months, things started exploding and this is burning. I think it's devastating to see how things have been fall apart. But you know what? This isn't open up.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Welcome back. We're joined on the line now by Professor Jeff Halper, Director of the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions. We'll dive straight back into where we left off. Prof. Halper, thank you for joining us. Can you outline for our listeners the current dynamics between Israel and Iran? Why is it that tensions seem to be escalating right now?
I'll tell you, it has to do with Palestine. Everything comes back to Palestine in the end. Just let me back up for 1 second. It'll be brief, I promise. But, Zionism that began Israel, the ideology, the movement of Zionism, was a settler colonial movement. In other words, its intent was to take over Palestine. And if you want to take over someone else's country, it has to be genocidal. You have to displace them. You have to take their lands. And you have to replace them with your own population. The idea of Zionism in Israel is to make an Arab Palestinian country into a Jewish country, right? Make Palestine into Israel. So that has to be violent. And that's happened over the last more than a century, that process. Where we are today is in the final stages. And the final stages are called pacification. Pacification means breaking all resistance so that there can be no more resistance to Zionism, to Israel's takeover of Palestine. And then the next stage, the final stage, is normalization. You normalize. That's the Abraham Accords, where you have now Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain, the Gulf states, UAE, even Morocco, Sudan, all normalizing with Israel, meaning Israel, the big Israel, with all its settlements, and creating an apartheid regime for Palestinians. Now the last resistance has come from Hamas, and that's why you have this attack, the genocide in Gaza, because Israel is trying to break the Hamas resistance once and for all. It's happening in the West Bank as well. Okay, that's locally. But in the region, Israel has to integrate into the region. It has to be normalized by the countries around. So it's managed to do that with the Arab countries in a peaceful way because Israel is so strong militarily that it's helped the Arab countries. For example, it's helped the Saudis against the Houthis when in their fighting and so on. Israel also helps the Arab countries in terms of mediation with the United States. The United States is willing to sell very sophisticated arms to the Arab countries because Israel says it's okay. So they need Israel to get to the United States. So they're willing to join the Abraham Accords and accept an apartheid Israel and completely ignore the Palestinians. That's the problem. The only other source of resistance regionally is Iran. And so the pacification campaign that you see in Gaza, that you see in the West Bank, has to be extended to Iran. Iran has to be broken militarily so it can't oppose Israel. And Netanyahu has said this whole war with Iran is about normalization. So this is what's going to happen. Iran will have to Iran, whatever the regime is, it doesn't really matter because they don't care about the people. Whatever the regime is, if they want any kind of peace and normalization for their own country in Iran, they're going to have to recognize Israel and either join the Abraham Accords or at least agree to normalize with Israel. The same is true for Syria, and the same is true for Lebanon. Once Israel destroys Hezbollah, and Lebanon is already suing for peace, the condition is going to be you have to normalize relations with Israel. And then you're going to have an Israel, an apartheid Israel, controlling 90% of Palestine. The Palestinians living in tiny little Bantustans, even smaller than the South African ones, and Israel living a normal life in the region, accepted by the whole region from Iran all the way to Morocco. That's, I think, the end game.
Thanks, Prof, for drawing such a complete picture for us. I want to pick up on a point you made around the United States. To what extent is Israel's strategy intertwined with U.S. policy in the region? Can you give us a bit of context on that one?
It has to be. Israel's a small country, and it can't survive on its own. It can't do all this on its own. 85% of its weapons and 90% of its ammunition comes from the United States. Germany also gives a lot of weapons and ammunition to Israel. Israel couldn't have the weapons it has. The Iron Dome, for example, this air missile defense system, without American technology. In other words, Israel couldn't survive on its own. So Zionism, again, this whole movement, from the very beginning realized that it couldn't succeed on its own. And so it had to serve the hegemons. That became a principle of Zionism. So Israel serves the United States today. It used to have France. It used to have Britain. It used to have the Ottoman Empire even as its support. Today, it's the United States. So whatever the United States wants in the region, Israel will help supply. And Israel has become then the military hegemon in the Middle East. The Arab governments themselves can't really, certainly couldn't survive with Iran and so on without the Israeli protection. So in a way, you're getting to a co-hegemony where Saudi Arabia and the Gulf and the UAE are becoming the economic hegemons of the region, and Israel's becoming the military hegemon of the region, and then the region becomes a part of the whole American NATO, G7 world. And of course, behind all of this is trying to exclude China and Russia from the region as well. If the United States already took Venezuela's oil, now it's going to take Iran's oil. If that happens, the United States controls 75% of the world's oil. China has no oil. So
Mm.
China will not be able to compete. It won't be able to develop its technologies if, in fact, the United States, with the help of Israel, takes over the Iranian oil fields.
Prof, I want to just pick up on what you're talking about relating to what's going on right now, in particular. So we've seen, in particular in the Middle East, so we see the airspace is closed. We see we've had the first of civilian casualties in Bahrain. I know there was a young woman that was inadvertently hit in a building. What kinds of further consequences can we expect to see if tensions continue to rise over the next weeks and months?
I think it's going to start winding down. It is winding down, I think. The United States has a problem because if the United States wants to take over the oil fields and really destroy the nuclear capabilities of Iran, it's going to have to somehow go into Iran. I mean, Trump is talking about boots on the ground, about actually sending, the soldiers, the troops into Iran. That's going to be a mess. I don't know where the United States, I don't know what they're going to do exactly. But in terms of Israel and the region, I think Israel has really accomplished its goal. It's neutralized Iran militarily, and it's made it in a way so weak. It doesn't matter about the regime change. Again, nobody cares if it's the old regime that's oppressive or a new regime. The point is that the regime has to come to terms with Israel, and that's all Israel cares about. So I think Israel knows. It's mapped out so much in detail, the Iranian military network and its technological networks and its leadership and everything else, that it can pretty systematically dismantle Iranians' capabilities. So I think that's gonna wind down. I think there could still be Iran American tensions over Hormuz and oil and all of that. But in terms of the Middle East itself, I think we're going to get to a point where simply Israel is going to be normalized again, and I think the Middle East will go into a period of quiet. There's been a lot of damage to the oil facilities, so we'll have to see what happens in terms of the UAE and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states and Iran as well. But I think that will kind of go back. I don't think Iran wants a war with the Arab world. But in terms of the Middle East, I think Israel is going to become the dominant power.
To go, can I ask you one last question? What can I ask you to put in simple terms for us? What would you want global listeners to understand about the human and political stakes in this conflict that often gets lost in headlines?
Well, I think the Palestinians are what's getting lost. All of this is big regional politics. And it has nothing to do with the Palestinians. It's going over the head of the Palestinians. It's all states. It's Israel, the Arab states, Iran, the United States, Europe, and the Palestinians aren't even at the table. So I'm in the fight for Palestinian rights. I don't want Israel to win. I don't want a new apartheid regime to emerge. I don't want Palestinians to become colonized and lose all their country and all their rights. And so it's really up to the peoples to organize. South Africa did a great thing with the ICJ, and I think you guys are doing good work. But not many states are really coming to the aid of the Palestinians. So what we have to do is keep this eye on normalization. We have to try to stop this normalization process. Keep the Palestinians, Gaza and the West Bank have disappeared from the news. We have to keep them back in the news all the time. And I think we have to put pressure on the Arab states. I mean, it's interesting, there's all kinds of demonstrations about Trump and the United States and Europe. Nobody's focusing on the fact that this could not happen if the Arab countries weren't cooperating with Israel. So I think there has to be a worldwide Islamic and Arab and Islamic movement to tell these Arab states, no, you do not normalize with Israel, and you have to be in solidarity with the Palestinians.
Absolutely. Professor Jeff Halper speaking to us from Al-Quds. Thank you so much for your time and insights this morning.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Take care. We'll go now for a quick ad break, and when we come back, some more insightful conversations.